Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, we listen to a sad tale of price here at the Proving Ground. A tale of where success can sometimes come at a price. Today, we're talking about Distraint. Now, I want to point out I'm playing the physical Switch version, which comes with 1 and 2, but in this video we are talking about 1, and there is a specific difference between the download version of 1 and the physical version of 1 that I need to discuss about during the review. But let's get down to the basics first. So, Distraint, as the name suggests, is a game about kicking tenants out of their property who no longer can make their payments or own their houses. You play as Price, who's looking to, how should we say, climb the corporate ladder to higher and greater things in life while working at this business that deals with rental and properties. Distraint is pretty much broken up into 3 distinct portions of the game in the final. It is a short game. It is essentially, to put simply, I would say, a point and click kind of experience. While you don't use a mouse, you use the directional buttons to move left and right on a 2D plane in a delightful pixel sprite world that captures a very Silent Hill type mood. Now, the developer of this game is from Finland, so I appreciate the fact of a quote-unquote Western game, since Finland's considered European, hence it would be the Western portion of the world, a more psychological vibe type game, as, you know, America and a lot of other Western countries like to tend a little more towards ultra violence when it comes to being in a tad bit of a horror type situation. This game has a much more psychological, especially when it comes to the sequel, which we'll get to in the next review. But I appreciate the very nods to Silent Hill as well. I don't know if truly inspired or just coincidence, but there are a lot of homages to me as someone who played the Silent Hill series. I played all the original 4 games and a few of the non-Team Silent Hill games. I definitely feel like a lot of nods. Like, even just saving feels like a nod to it. Similar on the red paper as you would save in Silent Hill, you save on a pink paper in Distraint 1. And I really like that. I love the visuals, the mood, and the music is also a nice compliment, which you actually get a soundtrack of if you buy the limited editions collector box version. Now, there ain't tons of music, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily music I would go down the road going hippin' and hoppin' to, but there are a few nice tracks that are definitely a little catchy, and occasionally could be very nice to revisit. But this is a very short affair, very story-focused, and it doesn't have multiple endings or anything in that category, so you're not going to end up with a very replayable kind of game unless you maybe really connect with Price's situation, which I do feel like Price's situation is very relatable, even if you're not like Price himself. Because, like, the theme of the game really kind of covers the hardships of life and morale dealing between the two. And I really like that. I think it's very relatable. And I really feel like the sequel is even more relatable in its subject matter of what it handles. But you'll have a very minor kind of puzzle type experience, mostly just bringing items to another place to do something else. There aren't many puzzles in the game in a more, like, how should I say, Silent Hill escape room kind of sense of puzzles. Now, they did actually introduce a little bit more puzzling in the sequel, which is definitely something I like. So, again, that, and derailing here, though. it's a simple, nice little experience with a kind of horror feel. It's not very survival horror. There is dead screens. There are ways to die, but they are far few in between, and they are very easy to avoid. It is very unlikely. Now, while speaking on dead screens, there is one dead screen encounter where you can die in that actually has a bug in the physical version. When the PlayAsia physical version came out, people encountered a bug in the second portion of the game going to the second tendon. To avoid spoilers, I would just say I would say at the beginning of the second tendon, just save, and if you encounter the bug, you can go from there. But the bug will crash the game. Now, once you've triggered what causes the bug, you'll have to restart the game to move forward on the physical version. This bug does not exist in the digital version, and it is exclusive to the physical Switch version's physical. It is not in any of the digital console versions or the PC version. It's had something to do with the physical version. So, it is very easy to get back to that point, spamming through the text. It took me like 15 minutes to just like quickly get right back to that spot again after I encountered the bug. But it is a shame something like that is in the physical version. But outside of that, I didn't have any problems or anything with the game. It's all told through text with no voice acting, so it lets you soak in the music and the mood and the setting of the environment, which is very gorgeous, like I said. It is very well done. I don't know how many people directly, I believe it was only one dev who worked on the entirety of the game, I believe, but if there was some help, whoever had to do with the pixel work did very good job. I see a nice future in yours. Future. But it's a very light Silent Hill kind of experience. It's not going to have a lot of survival, but if you like the kind of mood that Silent Hill brings, I would check out this game. It's pretty cheap if you're going in the digital front. It is, well, I guess first thing I should say, what do I think the game is valued at? I think the game is a good $5, honestly, in my opinion. It's about a 2-3 hour, maybe 4 hours if you talk a little too much during your live stream kind of experience. It's not something that's going to be long lasting, so it's tough to justify a really expensive price, which is why it's nice for the physical version. It's bundled with the sequel. Because when you do these kind of short games, bundling them together is definitely a great way to make it more easy to justify a reasonable, like, 19 or 29 kind of price tag. But if you're looking into buying this game, digitally on PC, Distraint goes for $4.99, which is way in the ballpark. However, if you're going on console, it's $5.99 on Microsoft Switch and PSN, and it does have trophies on PSN. So, if you're going in the digital front, physically, there are two physical versions. They're both through PlayAsia currently. There was the standard version, which is still available for $29.99. Now, in the next review, we'll talk about the sequel, but obviously I have to give an idea. Do I feel like it's worth buying the physical version? Now, the sequel digitally is $8.99, so it's a little bit more, and I would say there's a lot more nicer work, while still being mostly simple, and to the kind of themes and mood of the first game still. But going a lot more psychological, even more than what the first game was. I feel like, honestly, if you could have gotten it for $19.99 would be nicer and more justifiable. But $29.99 isn't the end of the world kind of price tag. That's still on the low end of, physical prices. So it's not necessarily bad. If you, like I said, if you like the visuals you're seeing and you like owning your games physical, I think $29.99 isn't a bad price. Now, if you want the limited edition box version, which comes with a soundtrack for both 1 and 2, a numbered card, a sticker, and a box, which all feature new artwork that was just for this physical version. If you want that, you're looking at a little bit more difficulty. I think when it came out, it was $39.99, and you do get a little manual with some artwork in it too with this. But and it has reverse cover art too, which has some of the new artwork in it as well. But if you're wanting this version, I think it originally was $39.99, but it's sold out because it was really limited. If you want that version, eBay is kind of a mess with it right now. There's a lot of listings for the standard version, way too much, which is kind of ridiculous considering it's still way in stock on PlayAsia. The standard version's still in stock, so I don't know why people are trying to hack it up to $50. Just people waiting for it to sell out so they can, start the scalping game. But if you're looking for the big box, it's kind of wavering around $70 to $80 with the few listings of it. There's only 5 listings of it currently on eBay. And again, as a lot of these usually are, that's not a price I can really recommend for this, like $80. And it's harder to recommend, especially since if you're very anti-download type person like me, and you only really dabble into DRM free titles, you'll be happy to hear that both titles are DRM free on GOG. So if that's a problem for you and you want DRM free, these are both games available DRM free on PC, so you can still get them for a vastly affordable price. And they do go on sale very often. Like Dan, when I was live streaming the sequel, was just saying that like the first one was like $1.99, and I think that the sequel was $3.99 at the moment. So you can get deals and stuff on them in the DRM free market or on Steam. Of course, they're on Steam as well if that is your cup of tea. But I can't recommend the big box version for like $80-something, and probably ain't going to really go down. If you're interested in the physical version, get the $29.99 version off of PlayAsia. Still in stock and everything. It was a standard release. Not sure how many they printed of the standard. I believe the big box one only had 3,000 copies made. So I enjoyed my experience with both games, so I definitely would recommend getting one of the collections, whether it be digital or physical, of the two games. Because definitely, if you're going to play one, you definitely should play the other, because it complements, especially when you're going from 1 to 2. I feel like 2 complements a lot of the themes and ideas that they didn't really explain, like the bloody elephant that appears. Like, they actually explain that in the sequel, what it represents and such. So I appreciate the sequel a lot more, but I loved both games. They're very nice, but definitely one-time plays for me. But I definitely recommend checking them out if you're into the kind of Silent Hill type thing. Anyway, let's get into spoilers, shall we? So, the one thing I didn't like about Distraint 1 was it just really left you on a cliffhanger ending, which, I mean, it really is subjective how you like endings, but the reason to me it's weird is because, I bought the collection, which has the sequel, so it's kind of anticlimactic that the first game ends with Price getting ready to commit suicide, and then you hear a gunshot and it ends. It's like, well, there's a sequel, so obviously that can't be what happens, right? Because as far as I was aware of, you played Price in the sequel, and you do, so it's like, well, you get the impact's kind of lost on me because I already know there's a sequel and you played as Price, or at least I was under the impression you played as Price, so the impact was kind of lost to me. So I would imagine if you played it prior to it ever having the sequel, there was a lot more impact of the fact that Price commits suicide, not being able to cope with the feelings of how he kicked these people out to try and get a better position in life. But the theme of the game, like dealing with your work and your morale, I think that is an interesting message because a lot of people get into the mindset of being immoral to make a living. And I can understand that, a lot of corporations and shit are pretty heartless and stuff. And I think its message is essentially to find a balance between surviving in the world and not sacrificing your humanity towards other people for your own benefit. But that's just what I kind of took away from the game. Anyway, if you feel like you learned anything interesting in this game, feel free, in this video, feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like you learned nothing at all, feel free to leave a dislike, guilt free. And until next time, be careful. The mind of the world is a very dangerous place.